or forgot how to count,
Yeah,
Tyler.
threw us all off.
Yeah, but it's the last month of the year. It's I don't know if it's gone by super fast or if it's just like crawled by. I don't. At times it feels like both.
A lot of times when I go to write the date, I don't know why I default to August. Like it just it's I don't. It's like what month is it? I don't. I guess it's December.
Apparently, 2020. This year's rapidly coming to a close. But we got some fun stuff to do before it. The RTC Cup is this weekend, and we brought on one of the competitors to join us today. Is Dave Habat, wrestles for the Cliff Keen Wrestling Club, and joining us now. Dave, how you doing?
Doing good. How's it going, guys?
I'm great. I'm great. Glad to have you here. Um,
Thank you.
a lot of things really to talk with. I don't even know where to start, but I guess kind of where we're talking off camera first. We can go with the Cliff King Wrestling Club. We'll just back up, right? Maybe it's a club, maybe not. But what have you been doing for the last since March, or I guess it's probably changed, right? Because I don't know if you guys are in the college room or not, but I'm sure in March, April, May you weren't. So when this whole thing kind of started, and I'm sure you're like preparing for, qualifying the weight and go try to qualify at the Olympics, everything else. How did your world change from like probably really hard training to did you just stop or did you just slowly taper and like I don't know.
It's hard to even remember the beginning. I remember me and Malik Amin were both going to go to the last chance qualifier in Budapest, and we kind of caught wind of this whole pandemic kind of early because we were following the Asian qualifiers, and they got canceled. And I was thinking that they would probably cancel Europeans then. It was like the day before we had to leave, and they canceled it. So I was like I probably would have wrestled a week later, but like my weight was getting down. My weight was probably the best it's been, and so yeah, I was in full training mode, and then we ended up just not going. And I don't remember what training was like then. I remember we bought a treadmill. We have like we had a condo at the time, and my wife wanted the condo, or she wanted the treadmill more than I did. But I remember I was running on that a little bit, but there was no wrestling. Um, and so I don't remember the early months. I remember we were running on the treadmill a little bit, so I was off the mats for a while, and then we started getting together in the summer because I remember it was like scorching hot, and we started like wrestling outside a little bit in a small group. And then since then, I mean, we haven't been in the Michigan wrestling room since we trained somewhere else. And I haven't seen college guys except for some of like the guys like Miles and Mean, like the guys who are also on the senior level. I haven't seen the college guys, and I haven't seen the coaches a whole lot. I haven't seen some of the college guys since the outbreak or whatever back in March.
Yeah.
Training the past couple of months have been super. They've been very good. But obviously before that, I think everyone was going through the same thing. But I'd say since like maybe August, and I'm kind of just guessing, but since August, it's been really good training. Like it feels almost back to normal, except that it's a smaller group.
Sure. What was the first? I don't know if you remember. I know you said it's going back that hard. The memory is probably a little foggy, but what was it like? Maybe outside of just like life in general. How flipped upside down did it feel, or was it not that bad? You just made adjustments, or was it like really weird and out of not your comfort zone, but just maybe normalcy?
So I have a daughter. She's like 21 months now, I think, and then my wife was pregnant with her son is 3 months old, so she was pregnant at the time. But we kind of at first it was it kind of well, first of all, when the Europeans got qualified, I was very upset because I thought they were just going to cancel the Olympics. Even though wrestling and even the Olympics is some people's whole lives. Grand scheme of things, it's just an event. They can just have it in 2024, and they say,
Yeah.
forget about it. I thought that's what they were going to do. They were just going to cancel the Olympics. So I was pretty down about that. And so, yeah, like I said, and you're not even able to like distract yourself and get back to training. The room's closed. There's nowhere to really go. The best thing you could do is go outside. So we went outside every single day, and whether that was just for exercise or just to take our daughter out for a walk, we that's mostly what we did. We went out, and my wife's the big one on that. She likes just getting out of the house. So we went outside every single day, and I would say at first it was almost a positive. Besides the wrestling, it was almost a positive because we got to spend time together as a family, and um, it was like some downtime. But then I would say that that's nice for about 2 weeks, and then even a month. Okay, it's a little long, but like just take this in because then after a month, like you're gonna get back to it. But man, once you get past a month, it's even for kind of a leisure guy. After a month of it, I was ready to be done. And it was funny. I remember we went on a walk and I was telling my wife, she thought this was going to be like, I'm trying to think what she like bet on it. She thought this was going to be over in like May or like, June. And I was like, and she always underestimates and I always overestimate. So I forget what I said. I think I originally said like next year. And then I switched it to November actually. So anyway, so yeah, it was pretty tough, but we spent a lot of good time together as a family. And if you take wrestling out of it, I think there was some positive, a lot of positive stuff from the pandemic, but it's also been, as for everybody, it's been pretty awful.
Yeah, awful. And you should have stuck with the original thing. 'Cause I think it's going to go till 2021, right? I mean, it's kind of
Yeah,
we're still in the middle, or I hope we're past the middle of it. Um,
yeah.
are you like so you can't get on the mats? You got the treadmill and you go outside. Are you a film guy? Of yourself or others, YouTube, Flow, whatever? Like, do you watch a lot of wrestling, consumer for leisurely entertainment or studying and whatnot?
I used to study a lot. I used to watch myself nonstop, and I used to study a lot, and especially guys in my weight class, like I would study them. And it's probably something that I need to do. I probably need to get back to it if I'm just being honest. I'm pretty open about things, but I love wrestling. I love watching it, and I guess as I'm watching it, I do observe a lot. You know, so yeah. For as far as film goes, I used to be way more into it. I used to just watch wrestling nonstop. I'd know everything about every guy, and I think I slowly got away from it a little bit because it was kind of getting in my head too much. Like, let's say if I study hours and hours of film on, Bajrang, okay, because he's in my weight class. Then I was kind of getting concerned that when I'd wrestle him, I'd be kind of froze because I'd be looking for, let's say I know he does his slide by or his snatch single. It would kind of like freeze me. If I felt like it was starting to freeze me up a little bit rather than just kind of knowing what they're going to do and just going out and executing what I got to do. So that being said, though, I still watch a lot of wrestling and I still pick up on a lot of that stuff anyway. And for most of the guys in my weight class, I'm not watching film on them every day, but I've watched all of them wrestle a lot, most of it in person. So that's one of the benefits of getting on a team. If you're a USA guy and you make the team all the time, that's great. Or if you're a foreign guy like me and you're going all the time, but I think going all the time and seeing these guys in person is a different feel than trying to go out of your way to go on YouTube or Flow and try to watch the matches. Like for me, it's kind of effort. Like go to the Europeans or the World Championships, and I just watch the matches kind of like a fan, and I just take note of what they're doing.
Sure. Okay, you brought up Bajrang. I want to get to that for a second, but I guess, and I'm sure you told this story before, but give us the short version of how things came to be in Slovenia and wrestling there.
So my dad's he's 50%. My mom's 100%. I've had a passport since I can remember. And actually, when I was coming to the end of my senior year, I was willing to move to Slovenia. I was like, hey, I could just like live there, and I was like, I'll live there until, and I was planning on being single. I'm not single anymore. I was like, I'll just move to Slovenia and compete for a few years, and I have family there, and then when I'm done, I'll come back. But then I kind of saw a couple older guys like Franklin Gomez and stuff that they were training in the U.S. And I was like, then this is a no-brainer for me because I can represent, which we have a lot of pride for, and it's going to give me a lot more opportunity, And there's some people who have said, and it's just Twitter, but they say like that you're like ducking competition. It's probably the furthest thing from that. Now, obviously, going through the U.S. system is grueling and it's tough, but just because I'm not going through that system I'm still going and wrestling Bajrang and Haji Lee. Like I've wrestled all the best guys in the world, including like at least half of the U.S. guys. So
Yeah.
yeah, for me it was really easy. I already had a passport, so I just contacted the guy, Stanislav Cernik. I contacted him and said, hey, I'm a Slovenian citizen and I'd like to represent. And that's pretty much it for me.
That was it. That's interesting that I'm not ducking guys. I'm wrestling Bajrang and Haji. Do you think this is tough to probably answer, but do you think you've made more progress doing this path than you would of the traditional path? Because of the
I think 100%. Yeah, I think 100%. And I totally get having a lot of pride in wrestling for the U.S. and that was a tough decision for me to make. I've just seen a lot of situations where you're the guy you make the team 3. There's a lot of different scenarios, but you see there'll be a guy who's the best guy, and then the Olympic year comes and he loses, or there's a certain matchup where you can't beat the guy, or everybody just knows each other too well. And I've totally jumped levels. I mean, like just a scenario. Let's say we go back to 2015 and I go USA. Let's say I'm one of the top guys, but I just keep coming up short. Right? I lose to Zane and I lose to Stieber and I just keep taking second or third or fourth or fifth. I'm not getting the same opportunities that I'm getting to go to the World Championships and the Europeans. And I jumped a bunch of levels in 2016 when I had to make the team. First, it was a rocky start, and then by the last chance qualifier, I was definitely one of the best guys. I know you guys followed. I was one of the best guys in the world at that point, and I didn't make the Olympics. But if I didn't have to compete in those tournaments, I wouldn't have upped my game. So, and then you see some guys too. It's like they try to make the U.S. team it takes them years, and then they finally make it. And I feel like some of them, they underperform because they haven't been there yet or whatever the situation. But there's some guys that you see sometimes that they kind of underperform, just the lack of opportunity. And it's like, hey, this is my one shot, and then that's it.
To that point, tell me about the first time you wrestled at Worlds, how you felt maybe physically and mentally, right? Versus your most recent time wrestling at Worlds, and confidence, mentality, whatever you want to call it. But right, you're like, I'm here. How do I feel? Like overwhelmed, underwhelmed, more confident? I'm guessing by the end, but I'll let you answer.
That's an awesome question. I'm happy you asked it. The first time, like, I wish it weren't this way, but the first time I wrestled at the World Championships, I got the guy from Iran, Muhammadi, and he was number 1. He was ranked number 1 in the world, and it's just rankings, but I drew him first round, and it was my first time getting down to 143, which I haven't weighed 143 since like my sophomore year of high school. So 149 was a pretty weight cut for me. So I had to get down to weight for the first time, and my first match is the best guy, according to rankings, the best guy in the world that you could wrestle. So I wasn't. I think I was a lot better than I thought I was, but I wasn't freestyle ready. I didn't do any freestyle in college, and the freestyle that I did in high school, like, I didn't train freestyle, and then they would I wouldn't train freestyle, and then they'd be like, hey, like, we need a 145 guy for the junior duels, and like I would just wrestle, Yeah. So I was not confident. To be honest with you, I wasn't confident at all. I was like, how in the world am I supposed to win this match? I'm a competitor, and you try not to think about it too much, but I'm just thinking, I'm like, this guy's been wrestling freestyle his whole life. I'm kind of it was my first freestyle tournament too. Like, I finished the NCAAs, I moved to Michigan. I wrestled at the World Championships. I didn't wrestle at the Schultz. I didn't wrestle at the NYC. So, and that's just me being honest. I could sit here and say, hey, I believe I can beat anybody. And I do think that, but I just was like doing the math in my head, and I'm like, I really shouldn't win this. Now fast forward to the last World Championships. First of all, I finally got a win at the World Championships, and it sucks to even talk about it, but it took me all the way until last year or whatever to actually win the match. But I was confident and I was ready to go. I won that first match, and then I thought I wrestled a really good match against Bajrang, and I think that I could have won the match, and it's competition, but I had some opportunities that I didn't score on. But even in the loss, I was like, this is way better than all the previous years that I've wrestled at the World Championships. And I was fully expecting him to make the finals and for me to get a bronze medal. But things happened. But there was completely different from the last World Championships I wrestled in and the first. Like, the first one, I don't know. it kind of felt like when you're a freshman in high school, when you're a freshman in college, and then when you're a senior in high school, when you're a senior in college. You've been there and done that, and there's a different confidence level to you. And even though I got put against the number one guy in the world, I was ready to wrestle him, and I did lose the match, but it was a great match, and I was happy with how I wrestled. But obviously I want to get my hand raised. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
And I'd like to, and that's kind of like what we were talking about. It was a good question too, because I think I wrestled so well at these world championships, these past ones against Bajrang, because of all the other years that I wrestled at the world championships.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you brought up Bajrang. He's now like a member of the Cliff King Wrestling Club, or he's training there part time. What do you know about this? And it's interesting that you guys competed at the last Worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know the full story. I know he's going to train, and I don't know. Maybe we'll snag him and he'll stay here. We have a whole month. He's definitely coming here. This is what I do know. He's definitely training here for the month, and he's trying to get ready to win some money at that 150-pound man bracket. So he's training with us. Other than that, I don't know too much of the detail. Maybe I play a part in that. Maybe he knows I'm not wrestling in the tournament. He's actually gotten his hands on me, and wants to wrestle. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know the full story, but anyway, I don't know if he's a full-time Cliff King guy, but we can work on it. We can talk to him. So I'm excited to have him in the room, and he's got tons of our training situations. Good as it is, I wrestle with Pantaleo, and I wrestle with Malik Amin, and then I'll go with Massa, and if we threw the college guys in there, it'd be, just like other places, there's other good training situations, but we have a great situation for him, and adding him to it benefits everybody.
Sure. And you brought up Sergey, I think it was just before we started rolling, but he's like, you smile already. Why are you smiling? Yep. I'm just curious. When I said his name, what made you smile?
Different. He's different, and I don't know. I guess I could talk about it forever, but first of all, I smile because I really like Coach Glazov, Sergey. We just call him Sergey, but he's a very joyful person. He's a very funny guy, but yeah, his ways are just a lot different. And I guess to go into more depth of that, just some examples. There's a million examples I could give you, but I don't know. Like, for example, he'll teach us like a step behind throw, and he'll say that's like, kindergarten moves. Apparently in Russia, that's what you learn your first day of practice. But then he'll make something else out to be like it's like complicated high level technique, and you're doing too much. I don't know what an example of that would be, but he's very stern in his way, and that's one thing that I would say that I've taken very serious, is doing it his way, because I want to win a couple gold medals too. But he's just a very funny personality, and his style is it's different than the American way. And I guess to elaborate on that more too is like, he'll yell at us if we're staying at practice too long. I remember the first time was he came to Michigan, and he's like, David, go home. Like, he's like begging us to go home. Like, dude, I want to do some extra. I think he's just big on like, get to practice, execute your moves, get some good wrestling in, and refresh, and like be ready to go hard tomorrow. I think I'm kind of speaking for him, but I think his thought pattern on that is like, if you spend too much time training today, then you're not going to be the same guy tomorrow. So it's kind of like, what's the point? Like, if you want to work on that stuff, maybe work on it tomorrow in that time frame. That's kind of just speaking for him, but it makes sense to me. But we laugh every time because we'll want to do extra. That's like the American way. Just do extra and get better. And sometimes like not be a fan of it. He'll be like, just go home. So
do you like, you're maybe conflicted because that is the American way. And that is like, dude, go harder, do more, outwork your opponents, work while they're sleeping, all these things. And to just turn it the other way, right? It's like, it's not that easy. It can't be that easy to just be like, okay, look.
Yeah, it's been a smooth. It's all been good stuff. So, I mean, pretty much we just explained to him like, hey, I mean, we kind of compromise with it. Like, well, first of all, for me, I try to just listen to him. Um, Not always easy, but just try to listen to him. He got to where he's at for a reason. I mean, he's been coaching for a long time also.
Yeah.
But then we'll also tell him like there's sometimes I can't listen. Let's say let me just throw a scenario. I'm wrestling Alec Pantaleo. He chest locks me, like and then practice ends. I got to go over that position at
Yeah.
least for, and I just explain that to him, and then he listens. He'll say, okay. I think he just doesn't want you to burn out. But like if you, I think if you make your case, he's more understanding. If you just try to just stay there because you got your butt kicked in practice and you just want to grind yourself for another conditioning, I think he's not for that. But if you explain like, hey, like I got to the single leg like 3 times and couldn't finish, like I really want to work, like because for me, I just couldn't do that. I couldn't like not address it, and I need to address it right away. You know, so he's been pretty compromising as of lately. We just kind of explain what we're trying to do, and I think he agrees with it. I think if you say, hey, I didn't finish a single leg, he'll say, yeah, you didn't. He'll kind of go with it.
So it sounds like
But
he's okay with fixing technical nuances or whatever you want to call it. But like you said, don't just stick around for an extra half hour and do sprints.
he's very technical.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one thing that's been eye opening too. Um, that's one thing that's been opening too with him is, you know, we practiced a lot of throws, and this had I kind of came to this conclusion when he first got here, but we practiced a lot of upper body throws, and that's obviously not like super common. And it's not that guys don't do throws. There's definitely guys who are good throwers, but to Sergey, it's common technique. And for first came in, it was like it was a struggle. I've never been taught an arm spin. I've never practiced arm spins. None of that stuff. And to him, that's common technique. And one thing that's been eye opening for me is that if you can attack the guy's upper body, you have double the options. You know, if let's say, and I've had this happen to me, I'll be down by a point or it's tied, but I'm losing on criteria. And if all I can do is leg attack, if the guy just stays low, I'm in a lot of trouble. Like I remember I wrestled Boris Novachkov at the Europeans the one year, and I remember like a really good match. He ended up getting a lead, and he just stayed really low. And I was like, okay, like I don't know how I'm supposed to, you know, just hand fight really hard and try to get to a leg. But like if I get threatened, and that's where Sergey's really good is he'll threaten. He's got a very good chest lock and head pinch, and he has very good throws. So you can't stay too low. And then as soon as you start coming up, that's where he can attack your legs. So it's kind of opened my mind to if you can attack both sides of the body, then right? If all you do is shoot low singles, well, and technically speaking, if all you do is shoot low singles, then I could just get on one knee, and it'd be very hard for you to get in on that low single, right? Just theoretically speaking. So, but then if you added in a nasty head pinch, it's like, well, now I kind of have to guard two things. I have to, if you try to attack my head, I kind of have to, I can't stay down on my knee. You know, I have to attack that. So then it opens up potentially the low single. You know, so that's one thing with Sergey that's been pretty eye opening is that being able to attack the guy's whole body rather than just his lower half, and it just opens up at least just being able to threaten it opens up opportunities for you. And yeah, just to speak on that, he's very technical. He's like 100% technical with everything. So he's always critiquing us all practice.
I like how you say attack both sides of the body. When people normally say attack both sides of the body, it's like shoot right leg, shoot left leg, right? Like both sides. But you said it, and you're like, no, top half and bottom half. I'm like, that's awesome. Had you
Yeah.
ever even considered that before meeting Sergey? And I'm assuming the match with Boris was before you met Sergey.
Yeah, that Andy was our coach at the time, and yeah, no, I never considered it. Um, my wrestling has, you know, I'm so thankful to be competing right now, and if I had just stopped at college, there's so much that, you know, even if I don't reach my goals, you know, which I'm set on doing, but even if I don't reach my goals, this was a great experience because and especially if I go into coaching or helping people out, like I have a lot more knowledge. And you know, go back to my senior year at Edinburgh, my game plan, I would say 99% of game plans is wrestle in your best positions, right? Like I'm going to wrestle in the positions that I'm good at, and I'm going to try to stay out of the positions that you're good at. and that's great, and that's actually what you need to do, right? If I'm wrestling Zane Rutherford, I probably don't want him to have double boots in or have a leg in. Probably
Yeah.
not a good idea. But I also need to learn how to wrestle there anyway, because if I did wrestle him in a style match, there's a good chance he probably would get the legs in, you know? So learning how to and also learning how to do so let me go back. So first of all, my thing was just don't get in those positions. I was not about throws. I was like, why risk it? Why risk doing a throw? Um I was just big on leg attacks. The biggest thing that I learned from Sergey and Andy Rovat was like my thing used to be I'm not going to let you get a single leg and stand up with it. And I was not really good. I think a lot of people aren't that great there, but you get a single leg and come up with my thing was just like, all right, just don't let him get there. But Andy and Sergey will make you wrestle in these positions that you don't want to be in. Like the guy has a chest lock or the guy has a single leg in the air. And I've gotten so much better in those positions. And I'm also more confident if you do get me there. Like I remember back in college, like there's positions you'd get me in, I'd be like I'm done. Like you're gonna win this. You're in the better position. But now I feel like I always have a fighting chance. And then so as far as the throws go, I know I'm kind of going on, but it is a
I
lot.
love it.
But as far as the throws go, I'm way more open to them. I'm like, man, if because I practice them every day, I'm like, if I could get a step behind or an arm spin, not really, but if I could get a step behind, like it's worth the risk because I know what I'm doing and I'm not going to pin myself doing it, and also I could pin you and I can get off the mat quicker. So it's a high payoff to learn those moves, and more importantly, other than just learning how to use upper body throws, it also teaches you how to counter the moves. Like the biggest thing that we've been going on is if you want to learn how to counter a move, you learn how to hit the move. So if I like hitting single legs, and let's say I'm wrestling a guy who has great single leg defense, I take note of what he's doing that's making me not finish, and then I apply it. So if I know how to do a step behind throw, I know what the like. Let's say I'm wrestling Pantaleo. I'm just using a guy in the room. If I try to step, and I can't get it. I can explain like why. Like oh, it's his hips are too far back. Let's say. So then you apply it to your defense. If somebody tries to throw you have an understanding of how to defend the move because you know how to actually hit the move. But it's difficult if you're not a thrower guy. It's like but you might go against a guy who can throw. Like Pat Downey's a good example of a guy who exposes a lot of people with upper body because he can throw, and because he throws so much too, he also knows how to counter them too. I haven't seen him personally get thrown. I'm not saying he hasn't. He's usually the guy throwing, and guys try to throw him, and he almost always counters it.
Yeah. Um, so it's interesting. Like a lot of times when you talk to senior level athletes, they don't learn. They're not really learning new moves. They're just like refining and sharpening and tweaking everything. Um, but you're talking about like, I guess the opposite, right? Like you are learning new moves, like from square one, right?
Yeah, I am, and I'm not saying that that's. I think mostly you do want to sharpen and you do want to just sharpen your own move set, but I don't know. It like for me, everybody's different, and everything that I'm saying, everybody's different in their approach to wrestling, their thought of wrestling. There's more than one way to do things. There's certain common things that everybody would probably agree with, but yeah, I'm still learning new technique, and I've always been that way. And like even like I said, like we do. I'll give you an example. Like we do these arm throws. Like so, there's arm spin and there's arm throw. Like so, the arm spin is where you spin underneath. If you catch his arm, you'll get the points. But the arm throw is like what a lot of guys do. I'm never gonna. I'm just. Anyone can know this information. I'm never gonna do an arm throw, but we practice them every. You know. But what I do like about that is that, like I said, if I wrestle a guy from like Kazakhstan or something, and he tries to arm throw me, I'll be a little more comfortable trying to counter that, as opposed to we never go over arm throws. And then, man, like that's actually happened to me. Like when I first I've been arm spinned 3 times on the senior level, and that's a move that's never been hit on me ever. And it's just, even though we still go over it all the time, it's so unusual to see that when a guy hits it at a high level, it's hard to counter because it's just not a pattern you're used to seeing at all. You know, if some kid just tries to hit it, it's not going to work. But when I'm wrestling a guy from like Turkey or Russia and they hit it, it's difficult to stop, you know. So yeah.
You brought up patterns, and I think the only other guy I remember talking to Kyle Dake. We were like in a somewhat deep talk about technique, kind of like this, right? Nerding out, and he brought up patterns and seeing patterns and like, are you? What do you mean by patterns?
Well, well, now Dake is probably on a whole different level than I am with the patterns stuff. I'm really just saying like, you know, and you've wrestled. So if a guy goes to take a single leg, after years of wrestling, you recognize
Okay.
that pattern.
Yeah.
You recognize the level change, where his arm's going, and his step. You know it's going to be a single leg. The arm spin is not something that I've never drilled. I was never taught an arm spin, and I'd never drilled it, and no one's ever hit it on me. So when somebody hits it on you in a real live match, I got hit with it 3 times, and I'm like, I don't know what to do here. So
Yeah.
that's all I'm talking about. Dake, I think, is talking about maybe more complex stuff, but when you're wrestling, a lot of the thing is, I would say for like American wrestling, we know most of the moves, we know most of the patterns. So that's not like a unique thing, but like arm spins aren't done here. Throws aren't done here. That inside trip move, and then they like that crazy throw. That's not big
Yeah.
here. But so somebody hits you with one of those, and you don't know what to do. I mean, you have to practice. If I don't, like, the first time I got arm spin, there's no way I could have defended it. I didn't even know which way do I go? Is it better to like try to stay lower if he's gonna hit it, or if it's better to like stand up? Like I didn't, and the guys, so that's all I'm talking about is just like how the guy, like where the guy's going and stuff. If
Movements.
when you wrestle for so long, you pick up on these steps and these patterns.
Sure. Sure.
Dave, we got the RTC Cup coming up, and man, I'm curious how you're feeling about some of those potential matchups in your pool. You guys are in there with Gopher Wrestling Club and Wolfpack Wrestling Club. Have you thought much about those opponents?
Yeah, I watched some film on them, and like I said, like I watch NCAA wrestling, so I've seen all of them wrestle, and it's interesting. The one thing that I'm most curious about is most of these teams have 2 guys, and I wonder like if they're gonna split time with the guys, or if they're gonna send one guy. And the one thing that I could say is for a lot of these teams, I don't even know who the better guy is. I don't know who's better between Sasso and Echemendia. Like, I'm not sure. So that's a different element. Is like we know who our opponents are, but we don't know exactly who they are. Like, this is kind of a unique situation. Like, let's say you're in college, you expect to wrestle the number 1 guy. Sometimes he doesn't wrestle. There's a drop off in talent there, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, but this time it's like, all right, you're either wrestling Kevin Jack or Tariq Wilson. They're both really good. You're either wrestling Mitch McKee or Brayton Lee. They're both really good, and they're both different wrestlers. So, yeah, I'm excited for the matchups, and we don't know who we're wrestling yet, though. Out of the so.
Have you and Alec talked about how you're gonna balance time in the lineup, or you and Alec and the coaching staff?
I like, so kind of like with the whole Bajrang thing, and I would say for me it's probably been a good thing, but I've just been wrestling. I just come to practice, and I just come to practice, and Sergey, we just talk, we just wrestle. Like, we haven't talked about any kind of strategy. I'm sure the coaches do. The coaches definitely do have a strategy, and I really don't need to know about it right now. But no, it's funny because I'll talk to like my uncle, and he's big into wrestling, and he's talking to me about the stuff that you should be talking about. Like, he's asking me these like he tries to talk to me about strategy. I'm like, I'm just trying to work on finishing single legs today, working on my gut wrench. Like, that's it, you know. But in my own mind, I do know that there's some matchups that I probably agree that are maybe more interesting to see for Alec, or better matchups, vice versa, you know.
Sure.
So, like, it's no secret, like Pantaleo and James Green, they're both traditionally 70-kilo guys. They may wrestle in the future. That'd be a matchup that you guys would want to see, right?
Sure.
Whereas I don't know if James Green's going to go down to 65, but if he doesn't, I'm never going to wrestle him. I'm probably never going to wrestle him.
I don't think
But
he's going to go
that
down.
No.
part of the U.S. team. So that's like an example there, like
Yeah.
of a matchup.
Yeah. This is such an interesting event, right? And I'm thinking especially for you because of the team element. And I think about your college career, and that Edinburgh team was like so much fun, especially that run at the beginning, up through 49. You guys were just like a blast to watch. And you've been representing Slovenia, so you've kind of been a one-man team for a lot of time, although you're part of Cliff Keen, but you don't get to represent Cliff Keen in a tournament or in a dual format like this. How are you feeling about that, about the dual meet format, but then also just, being part of a team that's really competing for a common goal in this event?
That's an awesome question, and you're spot on pretty much. When I first got to the senior level, um, I was all by myself. It was me and Andy Rovat. We were just traveling the world, and that was it. Even for tournaments, this is actually a quick funny story, but I'd go to tournaments and like I'd need to warm up, it'd be like a last chance qualifier, and we wouldn't bring a guy. So like I'd be like working out with it. I remember the one guy was from India, or another time was a guy from I don't remember where he's from, but I was all by myself, and then like I'm trying to warm up for my match, and like we couldn't even speak to each other, so we're just like feeling each other out. And I would say it's gotten 10 times more fun since the Amines and Stavon and even Abinator, we go on these trips together. But yeah, we're not technically on the same team. We are wrestling the Cliff Keen, but there's no team aspect really to it. Like we're not putting together a team and going to the World Cup, right? We're all different countries. So very excited for this event. And I'm excited it's in Cincinnati, Ohio. And if there wasn't a pandemic, my wife, she really wanted to come and she wanted to bring the kids. Obviously not in a time like this, but it's just kind of it's a teaser, right? Because this is probably the last local time that I'm going to wrestle. And I mean in Ohio. I mean that's where I'm from. So
Yeah.
even her dad was like, "Oh, I can just drive up there," So I'm really excited for this RTC Cup, and I said this when these events started happening, but I think there's been a lot of positives, believe it or not, to the pandemic, and these flow events that have been going on has been awesome for the sport, and it's been a lot of opportunity for us guys, and I'd like to thank you guys for that too. But yeah, this is like a super cool event, and what I'm hoping is that when the pandemic's over, we can keep doing this, because and I think this is drawing fans in more. Obviously, the diehards and everybody's going to watch the Olympics, but these events I think have been way more popular, way more everything than just going to tournaments overseas. So I hope that from this pandemic, or I don't know the whole story, but if it's just a timing thing, but this cup, I hope it's a annual thing.
Yeah,
So
no,
I'm
no,
super hope it continues.
and I think I agree. I'm super stoked that we're able to do this, and I guess it's for the fans and everything. It's great, right? It's fun, but like it seems like just as important or necessary for the athletes, because there's nowhere to get matches right now, right? Like how important is it for you to
100%.
make weight, feel the nerves, go out there and compete?
I mean, for me, it's like my wife keeps saying it to me too. She's like, you haven't competed in a year. For me, I haven't competed in any, like. So I was gonna wrestle in the Nittany Lion dual meet, whatever. I forget what it was called, but my son he ended up being born a little bit earlier, but it was like the day of the event, like my son was supposed to be born then. So I was like, I can't. I was like, I want to wrestle, but I was like, I can't commit to it,
Yeah.
So this is the first time I'm going to be competing in a while, and that's another thing that's really unique with the senior level. That you just don't get. I mean, there's guys who are more busy than other guys, but you don't compete as much, And with this whole pandemic, it's like it's been a long time since I've wrestled, and that's a weird thing. And also, it's been a long time since I wrestled, and I'm not just going out and wrestling, local kids. Like we're wrestling the best wrestlers in America and the world. So that's a big step up. But yeah, getting matches in, there's a lot of reasons why it's important. You know, for one, that's the whole point of why I go to practice every day and train is for actual competition.
Yeah.
You know, most people don't enjoy practice. I kind of do, kind of don't, but competition is what's fun. And if you don't compete in a while, it's the first. It's like the first time I've competed in a long time. So it's major. And then also, it's like, yeah, for me, it's like all I've been doing is training, training, and training and training. It's like I need a purpose, you know. And if we didn't have this, and you know, the whole event in Serbia is whatever it is right now. It's like, when's the next competition? You know, so these events have been very important for the. I mean, I guess I can't stress it enough. I'd say more than the audience, it's been more important for the athletes because, you know, we need to stay active and stay busy, at least to some degree. You know, and you need to have a motivation behind your training. You can't stop training, but you also can't just train like for 6 months and nothing. Like, you know, you got competition and putting on the singlet, making weight, and going through your routine, all that stuff.
Yeah. You brought up the event in Serbia, which I think is now called the UWW Individual World Cup. Do you have any interest in competing in that? Should it stay or should it, you know, happen?
I'm planning on going. I'm planning on going to it, and but it's a day by day decision right now. But since it was announced, pretty much the plan was to go, and um, anything could happen. So just depending on a lot of circumstances, um, you know, depending on a lot of circumstances, maybe I won't go, but the plan is to go. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for that, and like that kind of a big reason why I want to go is the same thing as what we were just talking about. Like I want to get matches in, you know, and um, yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what else I was going to say about that. Oh, I was just going to say. I mean, like I'm not going to go if there's going to be 5 guys there and they're not well-known wrestlers. I'm not going to go for that. But if it's a quality tournament, I'm definitely going. If it's a quality tournament with some quality wrestlers, I want to go compete in it. But if it's kind of a waste of time, and just with like, you do have to be cautious with the coronavirus, and I have a family and stuff, and it might not be worth the risk. But if it is, then I'd like to do it.
Sure.
Is the, you know, it seems like that's another event where, you know, Cliff Keen could have, you know, a little bit of a unique advantage that you're even able to go, right? U.S. athletes can't go. You know, Stevan, it sounds like is going. He represents Serbia. Miles Amin last week said he's thinking about it, not 100% sure, but it seems like something that you guys have maybe talked about or thought about in the Cliff Keen room. Is that another place where you know, I don't know, it'll feel like you guys have a little bit of that team kind of feel at that event?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been that way because you know well, it's so weird, you know, with these UWW rules, like we travel together as a team, so that's probably something cool to talk about. So because you know, when it was just me, you know, like I said, I would just go by myself. I'd find a random guy, wrestle with him. Us all wrestling for different countries. Um, it's almost like, how do I explain it? Like, you know, I used to get kind of jealous looking at Team USA. You know, now I know there's tons of advantages for me wrestling for Slovenia, but I used to look at Team USA and like they have a full roster. I'm like, man, they're probably having a good time together. Like you're with like 10 other guys, and then they get to like they have all these extra stuff. Like they get to bring their own partner. They have trainers and stuff. But within our little Cliff Keen thing, we have a miniature thing of that, you know. So that's been huge because if we all wrestled different clubs, you know, we'd all be going by ourselves. But it does feel in the sense of we you know, Sergey. Let's say it's Sergey, me, Dom, the Amins, and Stevan. Like we'll all go to the same training camp. We'll all hang out, same as usual, everything. And then what I was talking about with UWW is it gets funny because then sometimes we've been able to like room together and stuff, but a lot of times like UWW is just like they have it all planned out for you and like they have us stay in like different hotels. So that's kind of a unique fact. Like, you know, so if you're USA, let's everybody's gonna get put in the same spot, and then you like let's talk about like the Worlds in Kazakhstan or something. Like they all were probably in the same hotel, and then you go to the same venue and work out. But like we were all over the place, and we had to like coordinate where to work out and how to meet up. Like it was a lot more work, but and UWW won't just put you together. They just won't. They'll just say no, Slovenia in this hotel. Like they will not compromise you whatsoever. But other than that, like yeah, I think it's important. It stinks doing it by yourself.
Yeah. You just brought up like last year in Kazakhstan, and I was like picturing in my head. Maybe think like of all the traveling you've done, is there like a favorite place you've been or place that you went and you really liked, and the opposite, right? Is there like whether it was a bad experience, whether the place was a dump, whether whatever? Is there like
I've
go ahead.
I've loved everywhere I've gone, except Mongolia. I didn't like Mongolia, and there was a lot of reasons for that. But yeah, Mongolia was my least favorite place. And I mean, there were so many amazing places that I've been, and to be honest with you, I didn't even mind Mongolia that much, but it just didn't compare to some of the other places I've been. My favorite event was we did the Mediterranean Games in Spain, in Tarragona. It was just a beautiful atmosphere or whatever. Like me and Stevan, we would like go to the beach in between like the set. So we'd wrestle and then like we'd go to the beach. Yeah.
That's great.
That was awesome. And everything about it went really well. I wrestled really well. I ended up finding out about my firstborn on that trip. And but we're just talking about the places anyway. But like that was the best trip by far because of that. Like I found out that I was having a baby. And the competition went well. And it was a good time, and Spain was beautiful. And we were trying to stay for longer, but again, it's one of those like I don't know what to even call it, like regulation things. They like we were willing to stay for like an extra week, but like we had to like leave. It was like against our will. So I liked that, and I liked Russia a lot. I liked Turkey a lot, and then those were the ones that stand out the most to me.
Sure.
I was just looking at the results from the Mediterranean Games. I see that you finished second and Stevan was third. Did you guys wrestle, or was he on the opposite side of the bracket?
We didn't. So that was the only downside.
Because he was at
There's
65
a quick
too, right?
resource. So that's the only downside. So we both lost to the guy from Turkey, and I wrestled that guy at Turkey at the European Championships that year. And I would say that's one of the best tournaments I've ever wrestled in. I lost a close match to Aliyev, and it was one of those times where I wrestled. And I was like, he's just really good. Like maybe I can beat him, but I didn't see a lot of wrong with what I did. So. And then I wrestled that guy from Turkey, and I was handling him, and I just kept shooting. I just kept shooting on him. I was gunslinging at the time. I just kept shooting over and over and over and over. And then he started getting chest locks on me. That's probably been I would say for a lot of people, a lot of wrestlers, the chest lock position's tough, especially when you wrestle foreigners. They're good there. It's just not the same thing in folk style as it is in freestyle. You have to worry, and in freestyle, you have to worry about the chest lock and the go behind. So I ended up losing the match, and it was pretty controversial, but I ended up losing like 7-7. Okay, so it's a tie score anyway, and he chest locked me at the buzzer and stuff. So I got to rematch him in Spain, and that's the only downside is he beat Stevan, and my Stevan gave him a pretty good match. And then I wrestled him, and I ended up losing by a point. But the funniest part of the story is he didn't chest lock me, so we got to the position, and I was like, he will not, like, I'm like, I learned, and he's not going to chest lock me. So I shot in and I defended the chest lock, and he just went behind. And after the match, I was like, I didn't know how to feel. I was like, well, he didn't chest lock me, but it's 2 points anyway. And I ended up losing. But yeah, that tournament was not, I think on paper was not really supposed to be that tough, but that guy from Turkey's really good. And then the guy from Albania is kind of like, and the guy from Spain, like those guys they're kind of under the radar. It was a pretty tough tournament, to be honest. I mean, the competition was worth it and everything. So
sure. I got a similar question to favorite and least favorite place to be. in matches, this is wins and losses, right? So overall, your matches, your whole life, are there like any wins that stand out for whatever reason? It could be you beat somebody who's really good. You could beat somebody who beat you before, or you just felt great and you kicked somebody's butt, or whatever it was. And then the flip side, where a bad loss, where you just got ran over and maybe you didn't see it coming, maybe you did. But can you think back to a win and a loss? You can answer either one first.
Yeah, it's always hard to. I think with anything, it's hard to say my favorite thing, my least favorite thing.
That's why I say
I can talk
memorable. It doesn't have to be like the most.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll point out the most obvious ones, and then I'll talk about some funny ones. Like obviously losing the NCAA finals. Probably maybe the most significant loss I had, but also losing in the last chance qualifier to Garcia. Those two stick out. I performed pretty well in both those matches. Just didn't win. And then I lost a lot of matches on tie scores, matches that I was winning. So back to that Turkey match, that one eats at me the most. The other matches, like, it's competition, and you may think you're the better man or whatever, but it's competition. It happens. The match with the guy from Turkey, I feel like that's the only time in my wrestling career that I actually blew a lead. Like, I was winning. I was pretty much I think my goal was to dominate him too. I just kept shooting on him, and then he kept getting chest locks for 2-1 and 2. So that match actually bothers me the most. The match, and I'm like, I can't believe I let that happen, and I lost at the buzzer too. So that one sticks out the most as a loss. And then for wins, beating Surtis in the semifinals is an obvious one. Beating that guy from Bulgaria. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now, but he was a silver medalist, world silver medalist, in the Bundesliga. That was a big one. And then some funny ones. So there was this guy, his name's John Burns. He won my weight at Ironman. I went up a weight class for it, but I remember it was one of the only times that it was at 145. He won it. I took 7th. And I remember after the tournament, it's one of the only times I felt like I was like, I don't think I could beat that guy. I think he's just on a different level right now. And because I think he beat Ben Jordan and Mario Mason. And I remember thinking those guys were maybe a little bit better than me at the time. And he convincingly won the tournament. So I wrestled him in college, a couple years later, and I was ranked 3rd in the country, and he was not ranked, so he was not significant at the time. And I beat him, and I wrestled terrible. I beat him in double overtime, but I was so happy about the win because it kind of how far I had come in my wrestling career. And then another one was wrestling Sean Nemec. Do you guys know who that is? He was a good St. Ed's wrestler, but obviously him being a St. Ed's guy was significant because I think I got more text messages about winning. So let me go back. So it was the first tournament I ever wrestled in. It was at the Buffalo Open, and it was a consolation semis. And I think I got more messages about beating him than any other match in my career. But the reason why those matches mean so much, the Sean Nemec one, there's a lot of reasons. One is it has nothing to do with him being from Cleveland, but he was a lot bigger than me, first of all. And then secondly, he was dominating the match. And it was one of those matches where I came back. I got 4 or 5 takedowns in the match in overtime. I came back on him. And it was, again, just like the John Burns match that I was talking about. It was, I think, if I could say something to younger wrestlers about transitioning to college, there's a lot of different things, but I think one of the biggest things is you need to have those moments where that transitional moment where that confidence is what I'm trying to say. So a lot of guys are good enough to compete, but stepping into a college room is very challenging. You go into the Michigan room as a freshman, it's going to be very hard to compete in there, right? There's a lot of hammers. So I think it's important when you get into competition to have those big wins and to kind of boost your confidence. I mean, most guys are confident, but you need the actual results. So when I beat Sean Nemec, to me, I was like, man, I'm good. He's a good wrestler. I just knew I got so much better. I was like, I would have never beaten him in high school. Like he was way older, but that was like a big win for me. And I think that's kind of what got my college career started. And luckily, it was the first tournament. You know, some guys it takes until mid-season or another year later. Tournament, I got a big win, and to me, that kind of I kind of went off that momentum the whole time.
Not that confidence is everything, but it is sure is a whole lot. And it goes back to the beginning of this whole conversation of like, I think it's 2015 or whatever your first World Championships was versus the last time. And maybe you're technically better, but your mentality and your confidence probably brought you to the point you are today, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Sweet, man. Well, that's kind of we're right at just about an hour. It kind of runs us right to the end of the line. I'm going to open it up to you and give you the floor to say anything you want to say, any parting words or anything before we get out of here.
Yeah, man, I could talk forever.
I love it.
Yeah, I just really appreciate you guys having me on the show. I like your show a lot. I appreciate Flo putting together this event and all the other events that they have, and I really appreciate what they've been doing for the sport. I think it's no question that the sport has grown a lot with FloWrestling, just from like Twitter and everything, and just everything that Flo has done. It puts wrestling on the map, and it's been awesome for the sport. So keep doing a good job and keep up the great work. And it's great entertainment. It adds value to the sport. Yeah, I just want to just be thankful, right? Thanksgiving just happened, but I'm still thankful. So just thankful for everything that's been going on. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome, man.
Shout out to the Wrestling Club. That's all I got.
All right, man. Well, I'm thankful for you coming on the show and sharing your story with us. It's always fun to catch up, and I know we always get deep dive into wrestling conversation. What would be the right English there? Deeply dove? I don't know.
We dive deep, maybe?
Yeah, we'll dive deep.
Yeah.
Deeply dove, maybe. Yeah.
Deeply. Yeah, somebody maybe. If you know that, help us out on Twitter. Somebody send us out. Okay, that's good to do it. Dave, thanks so much for joining us today. We will see you probably Thursday, Friday at the RTC Cup.
I look forward to catching up.
All
Awesome.
right, we'll see you, Dave.
Thanks, man. Have a good one. All right. So, man, I every time I talk to him, it just ends up going like down a rabbit hole and straight into wrestling talk, and I freaking love it because I like to talk about wrestling.
Yeah, it's great. And man, he's had so many wrestling perspectives, and so cool what he's picking up from Sergey, and can't wait to see how this RTC Cup looks. He's going to be a big part of that for Cliff Keen.
Yeah, you can tell wrestling is just constantly going through his mind. So yeah, I'm very excited to see him this Friday and Saturday at the RTC Cup, and that is, if you guys didn't know, there's an RTC Cup this Friday and Saturday live on FloWrestling. 6 teams. It should be awesome. A lot of fun. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to see you guys there. Well, hopefully you watch it. So there'll be no fans. But yeah, for David Bray, I'm Mark Bader. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.